What's up, chat? Uh... What's up, chat? I'm here for the Chad. I think one of my favorite memes of classic DC concepts is the idea that mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent looks like this fucking absolute insane Giga Chad with this huge jaw carved out of steel, and people are like, Clark, you little pussy beta bitch, go into the coffee room and get me some coffee. And he's like, oh, of course, look at me, this man who's wearing glasses. I'm such a weak little beta when his fucking jaw is like this. It's like, look at this pathetic nerd wearing glasses. Ha ha ha. What a mild-mannered reporter. Clark Kent is like, I feel like he's the equivalent of when women are like, I'm not asking for much. I just want a normal man who's 6'3". I mean, I guess it makes sense if you think about it in terms of like, if you were an all-powerful space alien who's trying to pretend to be a human earthling, and you're like, I have to blend in. I know. If I do this, no one will recognize who I am. And you're like, yes, look at me, I'm a mild-mannered reporter. It kind of makes sense. As a normal man who is 6'3", I don't see a problem with this. Yeah, 6'3", 280 pounds of raw muscle. The good thing about the women having unrealistic expectations for male height is as an American who's in Japan now, I easily clear those numbers whenever a female is like, all I'm asking for is a normal man who's over 172 centimeters, and then all the average men in Japan are like, that's like 3% of the population, you stupid cunt. And I'm like, I'm 181 centimeters, so I guess I've cleared her standards for tall men. Could punch you in half, but somehow a beta? Didn't you pay attention to the part where he said he was a mild-mannered reporter? He's mild-mannered, guys. Maybe we should go back to the period when Superman, like every Superman plot, was just like, Lois Lane must never find out that I'm Superman. She'll never notice that me, Clark Kent, who has the exact same facial structure as Superman and has saved her as Superman personally multiple times, is also her co-worker. And then like the cover is Lois Lane murdered by Superman, and there's like an image of Superman like abandoning her in the middle of a magma-filled volcano and being like, Lois is about to learn about my secret identity. Killing her is the only way. This was like literally every single fucking cover of classic, I don't know whether it's Silver Age or Golden Age or whatever, Superman. Nippon women crave the Commodore Perrys of the world. It ain't that wrong. There is a very specific feeding ground of women, Japanese women, who are just out to find a white guy. And one thing you can guarantee for these type of women is that when they actually find a white guy to get married to, they will 100% change their last name so that they can be like Kimiko Thomas or some shit like that. Because like that's part of the appeal. They want to have like a cool katakana last name instead of like their boring ass like name, which means something like rice growing peasant or some shit like that. If you don't know about Japanese last names, most of the peasants didn't have last names until, you know, the 18th century or 19th century or something during the Meiji Restoration. And then like the government was like, everybody has to have a last name now. So all the peasants were like, well, I live in the rice field. I'm in the middle of the rice field, so I'm literally gonna call myself middle of the rice field. So one of the most common names is Tanaka. Tanaka literally means middle of the rice field. It means you're a fucking pathetic little peasant bitch. So it's no shock that all these gaijin craving Japanese females are like, I would instead like to be called Anderson or whatever. It plays into like their European princess fantasies. There's like just this really big European princess fantasy just like consumer base, which is part of the reason why Tokyo Disneyland is so huge. So all the people online that claim that anime is based on white people, they're wrong, but they're not wrong in the fact that there's like a large part of Japanese society that wants to think that they're white. They have like this magical image of what white people are. From Tanaka to Baker or Smith, to the Japanese, they don't understand what Smith or Baker means, so... Here's a really good example of the Japanese, like, I want to be a white person. This is called Zekushi, and it is a bridal magazine. In other words, it's for dumbass, stupid women who want to spend $50,000 on their wedding. But it was, somebody pointed out that every single cover of the magazine in the 2025 era, the cover model was a white person. They're all bitches that look like this. Even the pose that she's doing is she's doing like, look, I'm a princess pose. And the things that they're selling on it is a Snoopy laundry net. So that's also another weird, like, baked in part of like this specific demographic of Japanese women, is if besides like Disney, they also fucking love Snoopy. I don't know if Japanese people know that Snoopy is part of a larger comic called Peanuts. I don't think I've ever heard them call it Peanuts. Maybe it's just straight up called Snoopy in Japan. I'm not sure. Cringe is a universal concept? Maybe. If I find a woman who's the one, and then she's like, well, we need to spend all our savings on our wedding, I'm like, okay, you're not the one anymore. I've changed my mind. Is how I think it would work for me. That Labubus make it big in Japan? I don't think so. It seems like something that would appeal to these people that I've been complaining about right now, but I don't think I've heard the term Labubu, but I don't think so. Japan has its own gambling systems, has had its own gambling systems for a very long time, but I'm not sure there's as much overlap between like the women who are haphazardly wasting their money on, pretty princess weddings that I was just talking about, and like the whole like the Labubu, no, I'm investing in my stupid toy, gambling addict, money wasting people. I think there might not be as much overlap. Although with all the pachinko and stuff, you'd think there would be some more overlap, but Koreans and Japanese are into MOBA gacha, yes, and also buying extremely overpriced Disney merchandise from Disney Sea or whatever. Actually, the Japanese female money waster right now is called oshikatsu. Osu is a verb to explain you, how do I put it? Promoting something, being a patron. You could say that all of you guys who donate to my Patreon are engaging in oshikatsu with me. Katsu means like activity, but they use this term to refer to them wasting all their money on idols. But the connotation of the terminology is like you're supporting them. I don't know. It somehow makes it sound a little bit more mobile than like wasting your, not mobile, noble than wasting your money. But it's definitely a term that's just used to, describe wasting all of your money on your idol group. Pay pigs, yes. Female, oh wait, that's Mesu. Yes, Mesu is female. You would know this if you consume 18,000 pages of hentai in which they're always calling the females Mesubuta. as in female pig. Although recently I haven't heard that term as much. I think it might have fallen out of the lexicon a little, and they're trying to find other derogatory terms to call their female addicted to the penis in hentai. I think they might be moving on from it a little bit. It kind of has a 2000s feeling to it nowadays. How do you feel about this woman body type, the power girl body type? Boobs too big? I don't know. I know that term originally from Detroit Metal City, LMAO. Yes, Krauser-san refers to many females as female pigs when he's not saying the word rape 10 times in 1 second. Gacha is too strong. They hold events on US warships and construct fusion reactors. Yeah. I think the bad part is that Japan has let the Korean and Chinese gacha to invade their sphere, but it can't be helped. Japanese company incompetence when it comes to producing stuff at this point is pretty baked in. Even if they invent the thing, when it comes to like extremely questionable business practices, Korea has definitely outstripped Japan in the gacha field. You fucked with Jack women. I don't fuck with any woman. I sit alone in my room. Because I am terrified of the concept of making a sacrifice, sacrificing my personal space and courting females. I recently learned that Gunpla nationals exist. Not only do nationals exist, internationals exist. Winning Gunpla anything is very, very difficult because you're competing against the most autistic builder man children from all age groups across the planet. Oh my, a ball stream starting before midnight, you fell out of bed or something? I usually try and start at 7, and then what happens is, like, I'm just procrastinating and, like, dicking around, but I woke up at, like, 6:50 today, so I was like, fine, we'll just fucking start. I had a vague headache, so I was like, maybe I won't stream, but I felt like not streaming because I had a headache was too much of a honey, I don't want to have sex with you kind of excuse. So I took a Tylenol and I'm powering through. It's not like a real headache. It's one of those pussy ass weak headaches that isn't actually gonna, it's not enough to actually be painful. It's just enough to be vaguely annoying. I'd fuck with jacked women if I could find one. Unfortunately, being a jacked woman probably means that either they're doing a shit ton of sports, which is more rare, or they're like in some sort of weird bodybuilding cult, which is probably not good because those women are like pumped full of human growth hormone and they stop looking like women. I was gonna say that there's no natural way for women to be jacked. But in 2025, there's probably no natural way for men to be jacked either. All the guys who are like insanely muscular are probably on the trend or whatever. If a guy looks more muscular, like impossibly muscular, it's probably just the steroids. Anything that's too good to be true probably isn't true in 2025. All those kids could save a lot of money and health issues if they learn to just fake what they look like by using cell phone filters, something that women have been doing for looks maxing for quite a while now. Why waste all of this money and time and pain on steroids when you can just, use a filter on your phone? Bro, man, all the protein you gotta eat to keep your gains sucks, man. I read that as a 30 plus year old adult, I'm supposed to be eating like at a minimum 90 grams of protein per day. And even that seems like a lot of work, honestly. And that's just to like maintain, my muscle mass instead of withering away to nothing as I start to lose muscles. So, yeah, I can't imagine how much shit you guys have to be eating constantly if you really are into bodybuilding and stuff. We live in an age of illusion, baby, yes. Do you guys hear about... This was a lot of news in Japan, but I don't know if it got around to being news in America, but there was like this guy... There was like a female who was pretending to be like a huge biker. So biking is mostly a male hobby in Japan. It's also like not necessarily a hobby because getting around on motorcycle is very convenient in Japan, but there are like bike hobbyists. But there was this beautiful woman with long flowing hair, and she was a popular motorcycle enthusiast. And it was just like straight up a guy. Except the funny part was he actually had her hair. He was like a 50-year-old guy who 100% looked like a guy, except only the hair was real. Which was always the funny part, like he wasn't faking his hair. Great moment there. You figured out the Supergirl hair? I went a little bit shorter. Shorter is always the option, I guess. Everyone still thought he was cool after 2. I mean, he has hair. Something that many men struggle with, the hair thing. Because it pronounces the neck? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a short hair fetishist. It really do be like that. Balding is fucked up. I used to have hair down to my ass. I'm sure you still have hair down to your ass. You just don't have hair on your head. High test men, unfortunately, are also tend to be cursed with the balding gene. The fact that both my father and my grandfather on my father's side had their hair until they died means I'm actually not high test. I'm a weak soy boy pussy bitch, so it's not all good things. The LeBron hiding his balding saga was one of my favorite parts of growing up. Going through the different cycles of him from moving his headband slowly upward to getting hair implants just suddenly and getting more hair to now like he's gone to full shave it mode. You know you've reached the unk stage when you've just given up and you're just like, I must shave. Why you still remember that? Because he's still playing and I get to see his bald ass head. And it's like, remember LeBron being still having hair? LeBron's career kind of mirrors my own because he got into the league like right when I was graduating high school, so he's like a year and a half older than me. So I spend a lot of time, you know, living in his shadow. I'll never be as great an NBA player as LeBron, but I have more hair than him. That's something that he can never defeat me until I actually go bald, I guess. Most of the balding genes are apparently dominant as well, so more bald people over time. I don't see any real problem with being bald. All of my heroes, LeBron, ugly bastard Oji-san, fucking Mesugaki, they're all bald. My goal is to become a big fat, big dick, balding Oji-san whose eyes are perpetually shrouded in shadow so you can't really see his face, who is walking home from his salaryman job and gets raped by Japanese gyaru in the local park and is forced to take them to Love Hoteru. Somehow that doesn't seem to be happening to me though. Not sure what the problem is. I think we can make this leg a little bit thicker. You work out too much for that? Yeah, I'm much more closer to the tanned fuckboy body type if we're going by hentai. I guess because I'm foreigner, I can also be the foreigner with shrouded eyes body type, but those are very, very rarely white guys. It's almost always like the black guy, so I don't really fit that stereotype either. The problem with the foreigner hentai stereotype is that if it's a white guy, the cuck fantasy doesn't really it doesn't line up properly because the woman will be like already attracted to him in the first place. Because like I started the stream talking about these women with like the white guy fetishes. So it has to be, you know, faceless black guy instead of faceless white guy. Or it can be faceless tan guy with blonde hair because he's bleaching it. That's also a thing. Gyaruo arc when? Never, unfortunately. I've kind of aged out of it. Although I'm sure there's like some Gyaruo who are like 45 and stuff. Considering it was something that was at its peak in the Heisei era, and like anybody who's still a Gyaruo in 2025 is probably continuing that shit from back in the day. Every once in a while there'll be news in the Japanese news cycle where it's like motorcycle gangs clashed with police. And it's like, oh, motorcycle gangs are still around. And it's like, they show the ages of the people who got arrested always. And it's always like the guy's like 50 years old. And I'm like, holy shit. It's not that motorcycle gangs are still around. It's just that the guys who are doing motorcycle gang shit in 93 haven't graduated. And they're still doing it. I guess there shouldn't be a ground. Because if there is, the Power Girl pose doesn't make as much sense. Hentai Oji arc then, yes. All I need is a Mesugaki to show up and start berating me. There's so much Barrett and Tifa porn for a reason. Poor Cloud. I don't know. There's a bunch of Barrett and Tifa porn, but I feel like there's more, Red 13 and Tifa porn, and also just like Tifa selling her body in the slums porn. The funny thing is, both Tifa and Aerith are, and Yuffie for that matter, they're all kind of like prostitution coded if you think about it. Tifa, your pure childhood friend, going out to the city, working in seedy bar with big muscular black dude, and they need money for their terrorist organization. Surely nothing bad will happen to her sexually. That's part one. Aerith is the most obviously prostitute coded. Is like flower selling, which is a literal like code for prostitution in Japanese. Fat flower selling. And then Yuffie showing up and being like, give me your materia. The childhood friend corruption must flow, yes. How can I enjoy childhood friend corruption when I don't have childhood friend? It's a huge tragedy. The fucking dog, yes. Tifa isn't really a white woman, but, it sort of goes with the territory. In fact, in Final Fantasy VII, I forgot who was in the room, but wasn't there an actual scene in which, it was between Aerith, right? They had Aerith and Red 13 trapped, and Hojo was like, let's make them breed and see if it works. Like the hentai subtext is present at every single point in Final Fantasy VII. You can just feel it. Meanwhile, Cloud being getting fucked with lots of gay sex and becoming femboy gay sex. Cloud is also, there's a ton of subtext. There's the obvious cross-dressing scene, and then there's also like the scene where he's in the sauna with like all the gachimuchi guys, and the workout gym with all the gachimuchi guys. Just a lot of gay sex implied with Cloud as well. Cloud being dressed like that awakened a lot of bi people. Well, maybe in the remake. It wasn't awakening shit in the original because the polygons were so limited. There's just a lot of like stuff that it's like, haha, wouldn't that be funny if gay shit happened in the original? And then it's like, but what if we weren't joking 20 years later? That's just the energy we have now. Take it, boy. Yeah. Take it, boy. Ah! I think you underestimate bi people. I think bi is the wrong word here. It's like performatively bi people. Now that the internet exists. Usually I use black for red, but I feel like in this case, the way the colors work, I think the red here needs to be gray. Yeah. And Keep this part white. A little bit better. The age of the femboy has come into the spotlight. I feel like the age of the femboy was maybe about 10 years ago. I think we're past that now. Now femboys have just become a normal part of life. We're currently in the age of like what might have become someone claiming they were a femboy. Instead, now they're like, they're going maybe the opposite direction and being like, I'm gonna be hyper masculine or whatever. Femboy is normie slop now, sadly. Yeah, everybody has the programming socks. It's performative bullshit anyways, like so much on the internet, unfortunately. The internet was a net positive for society when it started out, and it was full of cool people like myself, but unfortunately at this point we're fully in the territory where the internet is definitely a net negative for society. I feel like the internet itself isn't the problem, it was fucking smartphones. The internet as technology was fine, but letting everybody access it was 100% a mistake. We should not have clubs in which everybody gets to get in. Time to start merging this shit down. Girl failures are performative too, yes. The male failures, however, not as performative. Interesting how that works. There is some truth to the programmer memes, though. LMAO. Especially kids, they should not be on the fucking internet, yes. I.e., we shouldn't... Roblox was... The internet was a mistake and smartphones were a mistake, but Roblox was an even bigger mistake than both of those. A lot of being feminine is performative, I found. Laughs entrapped forever in societal expectations. We need to go back to the time period of Jane Austen, in which if a female was not properly meeting societal expectations, we would call her like a shrew or something. Girl failures appeal to the male fantasy of having a pet woman. Yeah. It's come from the same part as guys wanting to have their art girlfriend or something. She'd be a spinster. That's a good word that I haven't heard in a while. Yes. Get thee to a nunnery. Classic Hamlet scene. We should use that insult more often. That's a weak-ass get thee to a nunnery.
Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? I am myself indifferent, honest yet
I prefer it when my Hamlet is just like, get thee to a nunnery, and she's like, oh god, ho ho ho. That was more like, I'm more hurt saying this than you are. Kind of get thee to a nunnery, Benedict Cumberbatch. I like my Hamlets when he's like just straight up going the I'm insane mode, and he's just like, get thee to a nunnery, and she's like, ah! Girl failures are more of a reflection of wanting to be emancipated for the harsh female standards, in my opinion. It's men wanting a female that is easily accessible. The girl failure appeals to men more than it appeals to women. We've had the concept of female girl failure that appeals to women before we had the concept of the girl failure that appeals to men. The girl failure that appeals to women already existed in media meant for women, such as Bridget Jones' Diary and stuff like that. And it often revolved around being like, I'm a high-powered, successful professional female who, eats brunch at various fashionable New York cafes and stuff, etc., etc., but I can't find a man, etc. It almost always, like, the failure part is, why can't I find a man part, usually, when it's media for females. But then when it becomes media for males, it becomes, the girl failure is, like, living in squalor. And then men are like, oh, she's just like me. Her primary diet is gamer subs. I feel so seen. We can be together now. You don't want an art girlfriend or a girl failure unless you plan on having a million items strewn around the house. GDA Mon Lord, Gadia Mon Lord, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate the support. We got whales in chat. Let's go, boys. Oh my god, a gifter? Yeah, feels good, man. Now that I have to pay rent, it definitely helps that when people give me money more. The yen dollar exchange rate is still very good, so it's not that bad on my case. But I'm probably gonna have to do some commissions soon. I was planning on holding off commissions until I finish my storyboard for my next manga, but the rent is gonna come around sooner. I can take care of her with my high-paying tech job. Yeah, but you can do that, or more like you're gonna be asked to do that even if she isn't a girl failure. That's kind of the problem. There's plenty of women who aren't considered girl failures that are still gonna expect the man to take the burden of the financial responsibility. That's not really what's difficult to find. I think there's a lot of overlap between the girl failure illusion and the, like, gamer girl illusion, actually. The girl failure often comes with a lot of, like, sharing in your male hobbies illusion. Like, she likes obscure PC games that you also like. She's like, she is stinky and smelly, but she also plays Dawn of War or whatever. Okay, this line here and this line here are incorrect. You see what I'm talking about? This is the line of the outer part of the cape. So if this is the outer line, it has to go, you have to follow this and it has to come back in right here. So this part here of the cape is incorrect. I fucking suck at drapery. Goes like this. For me, it's just like an amorphous blob, but I can't think with that if I'm going to draw it properly. It goes like this and then like this. Yeah. At least I noticed before it was too late. I noticed the line you pointed out. Everything is three-dimensional shapes. We have to think in three-dimensional shapes, but it's difficult. Can't turn our brain off. Have to understand what we're drawing. Or else you start making mistakes like I just did. A lot of girl failure art posts basically just shows vulnerable women rather than perfect girl bosses. Yeah, if we're gonna just say that it's just vulnerable women, you could say that it's a skill that women mastered many generations ago when they were like, "Oh, Lord Darcy, please help me. I am but a frail woman who is passing out because I have a corset. My corset is too tight. I must collapse on the sofa. Please, somebody get the smelling salts." And then the maid shows up and is like, "Oh, milady is having... she's having the fits or whatever." Jane Austen off the stream bingo. Yes. Mr. Darcy Smolder. I like the idea that we're just gonna have somebody with, what is it, ammonia? Is that what smelling salts is? Just like hanging around all the time? Because women are passing out from their corsets so often. Falls on fainting couch. Let's get the Ottoman. Get an Ottoman. Only a badly fitted one. I heard that if you wear your corset long enough, like you permanently deform your rib cage, so you can keep like the hourglass figure even if you're not trying very hard. Also, I was searching for images of the Daily Planet, and this showed up. I was just like, what kind of a fucking newspaper is this? If, like, you just walk into this straight-up newspaper, and, like, the people who greet you is this, like, absolute sex bombshell body reporter in the front, but then, like, there's this massive, like, hulking Giga Chad in the back. I'd just be like, what kind of a fucking newspaper is this? This is just such a, like, you know, crazy energy to have at your local. Also, it's such a prestigious institution. They have, like, a gigantic fucking globe on the top of it. All of this seems, like, so outdated. Like, the idea that a newspaper would be, like, powerful and important and whatever. Instead of being, like, our newspaper hasn't been making enough money, so we're going to fire 90% of the staff. Again. Don't worry. Our internet division will still be up. Victorian woman just spawned and wanted a rich husband. Yes. Also, they were okay with the idea of them not loving the husband and also him going out into the foggy London streets and murdering prostitutes regularly or something. Hence the way they would have phrases like lie on your back and think of England or something. Just let him fuck your immobile female body while you stare at the ceiling. The sexiest form of sex. The one where the woman doesn't do anything and just lies there staring at the ceiling. A couple of Richard Donner Superman movies tried to point the Daily Planet as a tabloid rag due to ownership changes, and that was in the 1980s. Before Mr. Bezos bought it. Disassociating wife. I'm personally a big fan of the hentai where the girl is just like checking her phone while she gets fucked by ugly Oji-san. The key there is that like you can have two directions when you go with that. You can have the one in which like she's completely disengaged from beginning to end and she's just like use my pussy hole and come, I don't care. Also your penis, I don't feel anything from it, and that's kind of hot in its own way because you're just like, whoa, I will fuck her harder. I'm gonna make her make something. It motivates the man to have sex harder if she's ignoring him completely. Or you can have the variation in which she's pretending to just check her phone, but every once in a while she'll like make some noise showing that while she seems to be pretending like it's not affecting her, it actually is, which also motivates the man. Both are sexier options than the average porn where the woman's like, oh yeah, oh, and she makes too much noise. I've noticed that actually 90% of the porn I consume that involve real actors, the genre of those porns that I've chosen entirely based on situations that will minimize the poor acting abilities of the actresses. So I've said this before that I watch a lot of like chikan porn when I watch like actual human actor porn, and that's entirely because it's supposed to be like a public space. The female isn't supposed to make as much noises, so that minimizes the opportunities for me to have to, listen to the really poor acting chops of the actress, because the only thing the actress has to do is just sort of make muffled breathing noises. But then I also realized that I like sleep sex porn, which is harder to find now in America and stuff because, it's technically considered to be rape and they can't have non-consensual stuff. But that's like the ultimate version of the females, the actresses' acting chops don't come into play because she's supposed to be sleeping, so all she has to do is just lie there. There's no room for fuck-ups there, so... I don't get how you wouldn't instantly divorce your wife if she just lays there every single time. How could you live like that? At that point, my hand's better. She's still essentially a maid and a cook you can occasionally stick your penis in. That's the only reason they kept them most of the time. Back in the day, men literally could not cook even the most basic shit. So, being a man, part of it was being completely helpless in using anything in the household. Also, we didn't have like a million electrical appliances, so that's what makes it slightly harder to, actually like do shit. Cooking and cleaning back in the day, the housewife duties actually required lots of heavy labor, so it actually was not economically viable for you to waste all this time, like, keeping the fire running and stuff like that. But, you know, nowadays, being a housewife is much easier. I know all the housewives are going to be angry when I say this, all the housewives watching this stream, but we have handy appliances to do 99% of the work for us. So men who can't make their own sandwiches now are pretty fucking pathetic. Divorce was also frowned upon. Yes, remember when the Catholic Church had power? I don't, but there was a time in which the Catholic Church was like, you must not get divorced, and people are like, oh, the Pope said I shouldn't get divorced. I must not get a divorce. That would be a sin. I'm gonna go to hell. There are no women here, bro. True. Or you guys are all tricking me and you're all women. I just didn't know. Still interesting how so many commonly feminine household tasks such as cooking and sewing have like 9% male celebrities. That's probably because the women want to watch a man. I'm guessing. They found a guy that appeals to women. Henry VIII, I give no fucks, by Catholics, also by to his wives as well. The whole no divorce thing, it wasn't going that great for the females, but I can't remember the actual history of it. How does it go? Was he murdering his wives before he was allowed to divorce them? And then when he was like, fuck the Catholic Church, was he like, I don't have to murder them anymore? Or is he like, meh, I'll just murder them anyways? I can't remember how it works. Every once in a while I'll get back into English, like, royal history, and then I'll, like, get out of it again, and I keep on forgetting the details. No heirs? No heirs, sadly. I wish I was, but probably I would be fat, but still have small titties. Being fat is something you can choose to not be yourself. Small titties are fine if you're skinny. Left Catholic's a divorced first wife because he got only one daughter from her. Stupid bitch. How could she betray me like this and not have a male son? Now that we know definitively that the gender of the child comes from the man, it seems very silly to blame all our heir problems on females. But on the other hand, I'm also not a king with a royal bloodline, so... He killed some of the later wives. So did they have the Protestant system in? Let's ask Grok on this. This is what AI should be good for. I bet it's going to give me like some sort of bullshit incorrect answer. Could Henry the Eighth have simply divorced some of his wives that he ended up murdering? Question mark? No, Henry VIII could not have simply divorced the wives he ended up executing, at least not in the way we understand divorce today, and not without major complications. The key lies in understanding the huge difference between annulment, which Henry pursued for most problematic marriages, and actual divorce, plus the political, religious, and personal dynamics of the Tudor court. The ones he annulled, the easy ones. Catherine of Aragon. Annulled in 1533 by the new Church of England after the Pope refused on grounds of her prior marriage to Henry's brother Arthur. Anne of Cleves, fourth wife, annulled in 1540 very amicably on grounds of non-consummation. She accepted a generous settlement and lived comfortably as the king's beloved sister. The wives he executed, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. No clean technical grounds for annulment. By the time Henry wanted out, there were no obvious pre-existing impediments strong enough to declare their marriages invalid from the start without reopening old wounds or risking legal political chaos. For Anne Boleyn, he briefly annulled the marriage just before her execution on grounds like pre-contact with Henry Percy and affinity via her sister Mary Boleyn, but this was a rushed formality to bastardize Elizabeth and clear the way for Jane Seymour. The real motivation was eliminating her. Henry's personal rage and humiliation. Political necessity. Letting them live, even in confinement, risked them producing rival heirs if they remarried, spreading alternative narratives that questioned Henry's virility, legitimacy of future children, or their break with Rome. Okay, so I guess he was perfectly justified in murdering his wives. I'm glad we settled that. Henry VIII did nothing wrong. Whew, I was worried there for a little, boys. I was worried that my hero, Henry VIII, was actually a bad human being, but if he had no choice but to murder his wives, I guess we don't need to worry about that thing anymore. The chuddiest king to ever do it. Also, apparently he liked eating a lot of very rich food, and as a result was just like in constant poor health and stuff like that. Matter of national security. I have no choice but to murder my wife. Please understand, Anne. I can't have you going and having other children in the future, which is why you have to die. Honestly, perfectly justifiable reasoning. I'll tell that to my wife when I find another female I want to have sex with. It's like, yes, we could just get a divorce, but what if you have other children? It simply won't do. A man was American by heart, Kekona. I think that's pretty true. Like, he liked a lot of sports, apparently, and he was, like, actually very physically active until, he fell off a horse during one of his, like, jousting competitions or some shit and, like, fucked up his legs and shit. So then he couldn't work out as much. But he didn't change his diet, and he kept on, like, eating too much, like, meat and stuff, which is, like, a very American thing. Like, Giga Chad jock, healthy when he's still young and doing sports, and eating too much meat, and then as he gets older, he can't fucking change his diet, and he's, like, then he gets fat and become fat and angry all the time. I heard that he insisted that there were like 6 kinds of meat for him and his boys at every single meal or some shit. Ironic that Henry VIII kept on piling corpses for wives while his father, Henry VII, never remarried despite it being offered to him on numerous occasions. But how often do we talk about Henry VII and his one wife? When we always talk about Henry VIII and his, like, what was it? How many wives? Was it like 6 wives or whatever? Who is remembered in the history books it's not always the winners who are remembered. Sometimes you can be an absolute loser to the point like everyone's like, remember that loser who kept on murdering his wives? We still remember him. I don't even know that many edible animals. It's England, so they probably had like weird birds or something with like names like grouse or some shit. He had 6, okay. Seems enough. But as someone who has read my ecchi harem anime, I wouldn't want just 6 one after the other. I just want them all at the same time. We should really just allow men to have multiple wives. I feel like it would save a lot of issues where like true crime situations in which like the guy finds his hot new secretary and he has to murder his entire family or whatever. Just make it so like you don't have to remarry. Giga Chads who can attract multiple females should be allowed to marry them all at the same time. That will allow us to solve our population problem without me having to have sex with women. Bro wants mistresses and concubines. I mean, we already have them, though. That's the thing. We already have mistresses. That's why they're mistresses. We pretend like this isn't a thing. Remember, technically we're not supposed to get divorced even in the first place. But instead of having like a harem of multiple women, instead our current system is like you have to get divorced first and then get your new woman. Polycules might help the affordable housing crisis. I mean, that's what we're already doing with millennials not being able to leave their parents' house, right? So I've been rereading Wheel of Time, and it's hilarious how the main character is just allowed to have 3 wives because prophecy says so. Mushoku Tensei, unemployed, isekai, I feel handled this very well. In which he just does dogeza, apologizes to his 3 wives, and they're okay with it because he was too apologetic enough. It's a very Japanese energy. Spirit of Abe approves men having harems. It's just a more efficient societal shape. I think the nuclear family has kind of run its course, if we're going to be honest. Raising kids is very difficult, and having like a single caretaker in a household do it is very difficult. So in the past, you would have like grandparents and stuff do it as well. And in many cases, you would have like the entire village like raise children communally. And now that we've let a lot of those traditions slip, we should go back to having men having multiple wives and then like having the different wives help raise the children. I don't see why this is a problem. Women can have multiple husbands too if they're capable of shitting out enough kids. The reason why we need to have men get, multiple wives, but women don't get multiple husbands is because you can only be pregnant one at a time usually, so. It's my turn on the pregnancy. I mean, with birth control, we can actually do that, right? We just need Elon to create multi-womb women. I mean, the problem with people not having enough kids, there's a question if it's coming from women refusing to have children and having access to birth control and abortion, or if it's the societal difficulty of like creating relationships in the first place. And in Japan, it's definitely the latter. I don't know if it is necessarily that way for Western societies, but in Japan, it's just like a lot of people just remain virgins and they don't know how to establish relationships. And then the ones that are capable of establishing relationships do have like 2 or 3 kids. So if we could just reduce the pathetic virgin population, i.e., people like me, down to like 5% like it was back in the Showa era, and force them to have wives. Women with multiple husbands means each male will get at least 1 baby. Do my eyes deceive me? You're coloring? If you count gray as a color, then yes, I'm coloring, but you might be colorblind, my man. I like the idea that there are people in this chat that haven't discovered that they're colorblind yet, and they see me coloring a picture with grays, and they're like, look, he's using color! And everybody else in chat is like, bro, what are you talking about? You might need to get your eyes checked. Motherfuckers think grayscale of color. It's color if we're living in the world of black and white. Casca's child being Guts and Griffith is interesting as a pseudo-example. Honestly, base setup? Yes. Why choose between one Giga Chad or another? Instead, get fucked by the first Giga Chad and then get dragged into horrifying Eclipse demon dimension and then get raped by the other Giga Chad and then shit out some weird half-dead, half-alive ghost baby that protects you while you're wandering around retarded for the next 30 years as the author plays Idolmaster and then dies from heart attack and doesn't finish the series. Great strategy. Casca is just a surrogate for the happy couple. Casca is just surrogate for the gay sexual tension between Guts and Griffith, as is often the case of many stories. We can't just have guys fighting and then just straight up engaging in gay sex in a lot of these stories, even though that's, you know, basically what they're doing. So instead we have to have like a proxy female in between. But the relationship is entirely about the male-to-male tension. And we pretend that the guys are fighting over the female, but in reality they're just fighting and like she's there to make it not too gay. But in reality it's extremely super gay. This is the kind of chat I expected. I mean, can anyone deny this? There's just a lot of relations where it's like, yeah, there's a female in between, but it's really just the men fighting is just a representation of our homoerotic tension. Griffith has plenty of gay sex, but only with an ugly bastard. It's well-known knowledge that all the problems in Berserk would have been avoided if Guts had just fucked Griffith in the ass. But he didn't, alas. How did Griffith not get Princess Charlotte pregnant? Unfortunately, despite our hentais, women don't get pregnant just by sticking your penis in them once. Sometimes it takes multiple times. You have to get the cycle right or whatever. It would be helpful if you could tell that she was getting pregnant because you had like a second window open up and you could see her egg being fertilized by the 10 million sperm invading her womb or whatever, like in the hentai. But unfortunately this is not a real thing, even in the manga universe of Berserk, so... Charlotte was probably off cycle, yeah. It only happens immediately if it's inconvenient and your life is on a good path, or if it's a hentai and the penis somehow enters the womb and she's like, no! Many such cases. I happen to be an expert on this subject. If a woman yells, "Dame!" when you're coming inside, she's definitely going to get pregnant. It would be pretty funny if, in the hentai, she's like screaming, "No!" all the time, and then she actually doesn't get pregnant, even though he comes inside. It would be very anticlimactic. And then it turned out that either her or the man or both were infertile and they have to go to the fertility clinic. What if you Kuma lead her when she's ovulating? Depends on how early the ovulation is, lol. I think semen, if we're going to be realistic, semen can stay alive in the, what is it, the fallopian tubes or whatever, when they swim up toward wherever the egg is. Like, it takes it like 2 or 3 days or whatever, and semen can be alive for like 2 or 3 days or whatever, so a lot of it is just timing. When I learned that the way the female womb works is like the cervix like slurps up the semen, and it's not about like actually shooting your semen up into her, it was very shocking and disappointing. Although I guess the idea that the female body is the one that's like actually literally slurping semen up into the womb area or whatever is kind of hot in itself. It turns out all the females, they were all semen demons. But yes, even the most fertile female getting fucked by the most, big dick hentai oji-san in real life, she would not get her egg fertilized in real time when you come inside. That's entirely hentai stuff. It takes quite a bit of time for the semen to swim up. You'd have to inject her with like the demon seed directly into her womb or something. You need to be like Tentacle Monster for it to happen immediately. Female womb as opposed to the pussy. Yeah, the male womb it functions much better than the female womb. When we do male preg, it just sort of happens automatically. Once again, proving that men can do anything women can do better. It's like a gauntlet for the sperms trying to dodge the acid walls. That's just part of the evolutionary design. The obstacle course can't be too easy. We can't have the loser sperm fertilize the egg. Whatever amount of mouth-breathing retards we have right now, it would be much, much worse if we didn't have the acid walls to fuck up all the shitty sperm. The very low standards we have for humans right now would be even lower if we let the bad sperm get through. Most otaku don't want to think about their waifus being fucked and impregnated. I don't know. Based on all the NTR porn I see frequently, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but oh. That's the only amount of natural selection we have nowadays, with the clear exception of in vitro insemination. True. Although, people like me with autism not being able to find a mate because we keep on spilling our spaghetti. You could say that's some natural selection. Again, this goes back to we should allow the Giga Chads to have multiple wives. I want LeBron James, his extremely superior genetics sperm, being used to, produce like more children than average, like, random guy who does not have those physical traits. It is a problem that the lower income, probably less, intelligent, less successful people are the one who are reproducing more in the current society. I don't want to go into the whole, what movie was it? Idiocracy was right, but people keep on referring to Idiocracy. In the beginning of Idiocracy, if you haven't seen it, they talk about how the dumber the person is, the more they reproduce. And everyone was like, oh shit, it's making a good point. The comedy movie is making a good point, and that hasn't been resolved, so... LeBron already has a child, Bronny, yes. Unfortunately, LeBron's superior genetics, they didn't seem to have been fully passed on, so... I don't think Bronny is going to be that successful in the NBA. That being said, even the fact that he can kind of like make a NBA second tier G League team says that there is some genetics, but I think that for like stuff like sports and stuff, the mother's genetics is way more important than the father's genetics, is what I've been told. A lot of it has to do with like the female side and like the potency of the womb and stuff. So it's like if you're a really good female athlete and also you have like a bunch of kids, like the third or fourth kid, there'll be like more space in the stretched out womb, and then they have like a really high chance of being like insane, like genetic freaks in terms of like athletic ability. But I don't think it is as important on the father side. Idiocracy is right about the fact that we no longer select to kill stupid people because there's no mountain lions munching retards. Yeah. We have to rely on the stupid people to be like really stupid and do something like drink bleach or eat the Tide Pod or something. You're not allowed to have your dessert until you eat your Tide Pods. Russia is thinning out their surplus males currently. Russia is pretty fucking doomed. Maybe because there's no surplus males in Russia and there's no surplus females in China. Maybe the two quote-unquote communist countries or whatever can find a way to trade their breeding stock. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work out. Marxist pussy exporting to China. I like the sound of that. East Russians can very much have Chinese ancestry. Russia isn't really like, the Western or even Eastern European country it wants to be. It's like a giant empire, so it's full of like places that are essentially just Mongolia. China has a lower birth rate than Japan, by the way. And India's birth rate is falling too. All the countries that were like, oh, it's their century, they have such high population, and now they have first world technology. It's like, that population is going to be declining really quickly, bro. I want to smack that Power Girl ass. Power Girl exists to sexually satisfy the male nerds' fantasies. So yes, that is the correct response. Power Girl owes me sex now. You could say it's a responsibility as a superhero. In reality, I wouldn't want to have sex with any Kryptonian because I'd be worried that, like, she would have pussy clenching in the case that she gets to orgasm, and then the power of her involuntary spasms inside her vagina would be enough to crush my penis, which would be very unfortunate for everyone involved. This is where, as an internet performatively horny person, you're supposed to be worth it. Say, worth it, I had sex, but in reality, it probably would not be worth it. Wasn't there a real arc where Superman killed Lois with his cum shot like an official book did that? I didn't have many comic books growing up, but one of the few comics that I did own was a one-shot If story in which Lois was pregnant with Clark's child, and then she dies in pregnancy because her frail earthling frame can't handle his super baby. So uh, Superman, he can't handle it, and he flies off into space, and he gets picked up by one of his rival reoccurring characters, and I forgot her name, but she's like this redheaded alien female. She has very like puffy 80s hair. I forgot what her name is. You guys, you know what I'm talking about? She's like this redhead. She wears like gold and green costume. And she's like a pampered space princess. Yeah, Maxima, that's right. And she's acting like a pampered space princess bitch. But then he helps her defeat some rival aliens, and it ends with him, you know, getting on with her. But it's just like a one-shot. Superman. Superman If story where Lois dies and he romances Maxima. Superman Annual 3, 1991. Damn. 1991. That was a long time ago. This is a very small image, but it's Superman kissing his new hot red-headed 80s hair female on the grave of Lois Lane. This is one of the few comics that I just had sitting around in my house growing up. Lewis and not Lois. Lewis. You know he will never stop pronouncing it. Lois Lane, Lewis Lane. I don't really care. I don't care how I mispronounce DC characters' names, guys. Postmortem NTR. This is my fetish. Honestly, it's her fault for dying in childbirth. Women have responsibility to give birth to powerful male offspring. So if she can't handle Clark's super baby, it's her own fault for dying. She dead as hell. Fucking an alien after the mother of your child dies. I mean, he's super powered. She's super powered. It makes more sense. Also, she wasn't the mother of the child. That's the problem. She was too weak. Men grieve by getting a mistress. I've seen it quite a few times. I mean, at least she's waiting until she's dead, right? There's so many guys who are like, yes, my wife isn't dead yet, but I felt lonely during pregnancy, so I had to have an affair. You must understand, I need to stick my penis in something all the time, or else I feel completely incapable of doing anything. Like, it's a pretty common for guys to be like, oh, I couldn't have sex with my wife for the 3 months in which she was pregnant, so I had to have an affair. Remember when John Edwards, promising Democratic candidate, started having an affair while his wife was like dying from cancer in the hospital? And people were like, that's really bad, you shouldn't do that. But it was also like, but it's understandable. She couldn't service his penis for several weeks because she was dying of cancer. It's kind of her own fault. Shouldn't have gotten all that cancer if she wants to keep her man, you know? Also demanding they have sex almost immediately after she gives birth. According to my hentai, as long as you use the asshole, it's okay, but I don't know. Considering how close the asshole is to the vagina, I feel like if you shouldn't be having sex with your vagina, you probably shouldn't be having sex with your asshole either. The mouth is probably fine, though. Women, if you want to keep your man, make sure you work on that blowjob technique, I guess is the story here. Well, let's be honest. It's not really like you can't just have sex because she's pregnant. It's also like you can't have sex because she's like completely angry all the time because her hormones are fucked up as well. I've never had the opportunity. I've been surrounded with different male role models, all loyal as fuck for some reason. There's no reason why you have to properly follow the leads of your male role models. You can be a extremely unfaithful human being. Don't let your male role models limit you. This is your opportunity to become a piece of shit. You don't want anal after giving birth. All that pushing will give you hemorrhoids. True. This is one of the main reasons why hemorrhoids is one of the most common medical issues. Is because women get hemorrhoids after they give birth usually. Turns out pushing like a gigantic baby head out of your vagina, all the pushing you have to do also causes you to push out like your stomach lining. So I guess our conclusion that if a woman gets cheated on, it's because her blowjob technique was insufficient is the right conclusion here. My grandmother hated my mother specifically because she didn't suffer her birth because it was a C-section. I do kind of feel like we shouldn't rely on doctors cutting ourselves open to give birth to children. But it's not like I'm the one who's going to have to do the birthing part, so it's not really for me to say. I'm always a little cautious of like the stuff that the hospital wants you to do or the doctor wants you to do. Because like I feel like half the time it's just like they're getting feedback from the drug company or whatever, right? They're like, oh, you're overweight, let's put you on Ozempic instead of, you know, learning how to lose some weight instead of being a fat ass, you know? It's always like we have a medical procedure for that. The woman was sick in the head, many such cases. I've heard that daughter-mother relations can be very awkward, more than like father-son relations. There's Japanese saying that goes, woman's number one enemy is women. As in, there isn't any like, you know, lesbian feminist sisterhood where women take care of each other. They're always like fucking with each other. And that probably extends the mother-daughter relations as well. You have high blood pressure, C-section. Over 35, C-section. Too fat, C-section. I mean, it's probably easier for the doctors as well, right? They don't have to sit around waiting for the woman to be like, ah, I'm squeezing its head out, ah. And instead they're just like, ah, let's just cut her open. I've done it a million times. Just cut it open, pull it out, easy, done. Also, we're gonna, you know, charge you more or something. Maybe you don't have to charge them more, I don't know. Let's ask AI. This is one of those interesting questions. Does a C-section in America cost more than a birth canal birth? It says it's much more costly than vaginal delivery. Average cost for a vaginal birth is $14,000, while a C-section averages around $26,000. Some data indicates C-sections can cost more, over $9,000 more on average. This is America, by the way, of course, where everything is fucked up. Also, the AI here is saying, without insurance, uninsured patients face even steeper bills with vaginal birth averaging $13,000. Wait, that's less than what you just listed. Look at this. AI is so fucking stupid. Total cost. Oh, I guess I'm reading it wrong. This is the total cost. This is out-of-pocket insured versus without insurance. You know what my health insurance cost is for this month in Japan? It's 2,000 yen. So, 15 bucks for my monthly premium. Oh no, I'm gonna be bankrupt soon with these crazy Japanese socialist healthcare system prices. How will I survive? LMAO. What the hell are they gonna do if you refuse to pay? Put the baby back? Average medical care issue is just like, what they gonna do, bro? You're gonna not get life-saving surgery? I want this line to be darker, but I guess that's okay. Which just means somebody else is paying. Well, in Japan, everybody is paying. That's why the healthcare system works. Have you C-section hemorrhoid-chan? I will get hemorrhoid-chan C-section probably next month. I have an appointment set up in February. And then there will be an appointment for the surgery if I choose to get surgery. There's also the possibility of getting some kind of injection, which kind of hardens up the hemorrhoid flesh. We'll see what the doctor says. The first doctor I met, who was attractive female, sticking her finger up my ass, was like, you can have a injection instead of surgery, but there's a possibility it will just come back. The hemorrhoids will come back, so he's removing it. Yeah, so I need to meet up with the main doctor, the older guy who actually owns the private practice, and he'll probably give me a recommendation, and we'll go from there. But it's Japan, so there'll be a hospital stay, and it will cost me as much as $100 to stay in the hospital. It will be horrifyingly expensive. Shit is so fucking cheap. Healthcare is so cheap. It's kind of crazy if you've been from America. You're like, what the fuck? How can it possibly be this cheap? If they remove it, will they let you keep it in a jar? Guys, I'm not going to keep my hemorrhoid tissue in a jar, you sick fucks. That's not a thing we do, okay? This isn't like the placenta after I give birth. Do you have names picked out? Guys, my hemorrhoids are not my children. Oh, my hemorrhoid baby. That's not how these things work, okay? The hemorrhoid fairy won't come and give you a pot of gold? Man, I wish. I've had my hemorrhoids for long enough. They probably appreciate it in their interest quite a bit by now. For Aspley Jr., you must acknowledge them. Also, it is them instead of a single hemorrhoid. There's like 3 or 4 apparently. The doctor who stuck her finger up my ass was like, okay, let me explain how many hemorrhoids you have. And I was like, okay, you don't have to do that. But she explained to me anyways. She was like, you have a hemorrhoid here, and you have a hemorrhoid here, and you have another hemorrhoid down here. There's like 3. I'm like, okay, that's great. Ball is such a deadbeat, first leaving Futon-chan and now disowning Aspley Jr. I wouldn't have had Aspley Jr. if I could have just forced myself to properly do my job instead of sitting on the toilet and hiding from, you know, management when I was working as translator, probably. I'm sure that's what this came from, ultimately, is all the long time I spent on the toilet, not doing work. Let that be a lesson to all of you. Don't hide on a toilet trying to avoid your job. You will get horrible hemorrhoids. Futon is gone but never forgotten. I have a new futon. Like many men, I have dumped my previous wife for a different wife, although I like my previous wife better. This is a temporary wife. BB don't need a woman, he's reproducing by budding. This is like the most disgusting conversation we've had on stream. I know I joke about my hemorrhoids a lot, but thinking of these pulpy stomach vessels like coming out of my body and like becoming you know, my offspring is probably some of the most disgusting things I think about. It's male preg, but somehow even more horrifying than the male preg content. We've invented a whole new category of disgusting male preg content, chat. Congratulations. Instead of ass pregnancy, it's ass asexual reproduction. You just need to sit on the toilet long enough and your hemorrhoid problems will become your children. It's like some of my Guro Dojins. Thank you, Hystrixia, for reminding us of your Guro Dojin collection. Tetsuo from Akira. Tetsuo! Kaneda! Remember in Akira when there was like a cute girl failure who liked Tetsuo and she was being nice to him, but she got trapped inside his muscle folds and got crushed to death. One of the great traumas of people who had watched anime for the first time in the 90s. This is what happened when normal female tries and gets in the way of the combination of weird homoerotic rivalry between Tetsuo and Kaneda, and also the one true love between Tetsuo and his weird, I don't know, psychological muscle growth or whatever the fuck was going on there. Whoever the fuck animated that one shot in which like she gets squished and then becomes like blood. becomes pulp is, I mean, good for them, I guess. A horror about a guy who spawns monsters through budding from his hemorrhoids. No, I'm not going to draw that. People don't buy doujins so they can experience body horror, guys. They want to have fun. Also played shit like Mad Doctor and Sayonota in 2010s. I feel like we had a more robust Guro Eldritch scene back in the day. People aren't really searching for that content nowadays. Believe me, they do. I guess that's true, but I think I'll just draw a beautiful vanilla blue archive doujin featuring Sensei and his consensual students. Vanilla blue archive doujin number 5000 instead of drawing a doujin about my hemorrhoid children. I wish they released physical copies of those games. Fuck, bro. We're not even getting the physical copies of, like, normal games now, much less various, like, indie eroge. Good luck on that shit. That era is over. Also, I think, like, I don't know about stuff like Sayonota and shit, but I think the more, the famous eroge, they all get physical copies. Eroge are famous for having gigantic physical copies with like huge cardboard boxes. Even today, you have all these collectors that buy the physical copy of the eroge. So Yumeniki is full indie, so I guess it won't get any physical copy. But if it's in the eroge category, it often gets physical copy, I believe. Obviously, you need to get it shipped to you if it's a physical copy, so that makes everything difficult. You have to have access to Akihabara or whatever. Did they ever complete that 3D Yumeniki remake? If it's some sort of remake of some famous indie game in 3D, I can always assume that it was never completed, because that's usually what happens. The answer is almost always no. Although Hytale came out in the previous stream and people were like, I can't believe Hytale is out. How could this be? So sometimes it does come out. Isn't there supposed to be more niche stuff in Ikebukuro? I'm not actually going to go to these places and buy gigantic eroge boxes, so I will never know. It released. Huh. Do you really want to play Yumeniki in 3D though? I feel like that's a 2D only kind of game, but whatever. I haven't played it. I don't really care about, like, I don't know, Dream Core in general. You don't want to play Omori? No. Does Omori have older sister incest, or am I thinking of a different game? I only know about Omori because of, 4chan threads for that as well, so... Omori doesn't have incest, then I'm not interested. The only situation in which I'd be playing game that I'm about, like, depression or whatever the fuck it's about is if it has older sister incest. I don't care about younger sister incest though, only older sister. If there's an One-chan stepping on my penis scene or whatever, I'm okay with it, but besides that, not interested. A friend of mine is a normie and he loves it. Okay, I'm not interested then. BB and his desire for a dominant Nesan. I'm also okay with One-chan who comes home from work and lies on the couch because she's tired. But in that scenario, if that was to actually happen to me, I would be the one who has to, like, cook and clean for her stupid ass. So in reality, that wouldn't be much fun. The lazy, spoiled One-chan isn't fun in real life, I'm sure. Whereas motherly One-chan who takes care of you and cooks and cleans for you is okay in both hentai and real life. Men just want a mommy figure, not just because they are deprived of their mother and they have, like, mother complex and it's all Freudian shit, but also because, we don't want to have to cook and clean and shit. By motherly figure, what we actually mean is we want a maid. Many such cases. It's like, if only there was a sexy female that we could have sex with, but also would take care of all the aspects of our lives which are a pain in the ass to take care of. In fact, maybe we can just, not do the sex part and just have her, cook and clean for us. That would be nice. Says literally everyone, including females. Most people just want to be babied. I mean, it's a pain in the ass, bro. I don't want to do shit. Parallels with Luke needing to overcome his incestuous feelings for Leia. I don't really give a fuck about Luke's feelings. That guy is a basic bitch. I've learned a lot from your illustration style. You're very simplistic and super clean. That comes from with time. Here's the thing. If you have a lot of lines and you're drawing messily, you might think it's your style, but in reality, it's just because your skill level is low. I know this because I also had a more messy style, And then after a while, I was like, oh, I can start cutting lines. It's actually just coping. You don't want to like eliminate lines too much. Some people like go overboard as they get better, like professional artists. Like Toriyama went like super low lines as he started to get better and better, but in general, a lot of the artists who think that like they have a style and it's like a messy style, what they actually have isn't like a messy style. It's just that they haven't like figured out how to draw with fewer lines yet. I just want to be the one getting pampered for once. You just need to hire like some sort of illegal Latino female who will cook and clean for you or something. You must ask Juanita to make the guacamole. Nihei has so few lines in some of his later stuff that it's unreadable. I feel like Stomu Nihei was best when he was making Bi Omega, honestly. Latino is male. Well, you can also get a Latino male to cook and clean for you as well. Those are also available. Find a Filipino girlfriend. Yes. There's definitely a lot of Vietnamese women around here now in Japan. I'm not sure if they're Vietnamese, but I think I'm assuming this based on their skin color, but maybe instead of Vietnamese they might be Malaysian. Well, not Malaysian. You can recognize the Malaysians because they're probably wearing the hijab. But there's definitely a lot of Southeast Asians here. Although with the current exchange rates, I wonder how much extra money they're making by coming all the way to Japan. It's not like the yen is worth that much nowadays. It's not like you get paid that much in any of the jobs. With all the like anti-foreigner sentiment, it's actually kind of shocking that Japan can attract any foreigners at all. But I guess the society is nice to live in. But if you're lower skilled, lower paid labor, I don't know if Japan is the best place to go to. Get a blonde Russian wife? Nah, I'd rather get a Japanese wife. They deteriorate slower than the Russians. Russian female famous for being hot between ages of 12 and 18, and then they become babushka or whatever. I don't know. I think that's the meme. Is Soup supposed to be holding the building from falling over? Why is he bent like that? Soup is just standing in his standard Chad walking pose. The building is bent irrespective of whether it's falling over or not. I'm just drawing stuff in a cubist two-dimensional art style. I'm drawing the Metropolis skyline. I love the Chad meme. It's so good. I like that the Chad meme is starting to get transmitted to Japan, and they think he's doing some sort of weird dance, and other Japanese people are like, no, this is just how the Chad walks. Soon the Japanese will know about the Chad as well. Unfortunately, there are no Chads in Japan, so they can't observe the Chad walk in person, but it's an extremely important meme. Chad is not doing a weird dance. The origin of the Chad versus Virgin meme comes from a comparison of the walking styles. Am I getting too old in which I think this is just common sense and people don't know about this? This is the origin of the Chad versus Virgin meme. Ancient 4chan lore, I know about it. You're good. Some people just aren't familiar with the original image, right? I mean, it's the Virgin walk versus the Chad stride, boys. Looks below parallel, avoids eye contact. Back so straight. Your uncle now, some are too young. We don't care about the ones who are too young to understand the origins of our memes. That's their problem. They must be educated in the ways of the Virgin and the Chad. By the way, once you start listening to random AI music to play in the background, you get channels like this where they're like, look, it's a convenience store in Japan. Look how comfy this shit is. Oh boy, I want to live in Japan so badly. Oh, the comfiness of having convenience store with train in the background. If only I had comfiness like this in my pathetic Western weeb life. And if you're actually in Japan, you're like, bitch, it's a fucking convenience store. Chill the fuck out. It's a convenience store with a train in the background that is going to be in the way because when you actually have a train that goes by frequently, it's actually a hugely inconvenience because, as you can see in this AI animation, like, it's very difficult to get across because it constantly closes. A lot of the comfiness of Japan is just the more compact streets and negative space. It kind of sucks if you're living there, by the way. Compact spaces. It means there's no space to do anything. Shh, don't ruin their gaijin dreams. Convenience stores ain't great. They used to be kind of great, if I'm gonna be honest. They were great back in the day, but if you go into a convenience store right now, it's super overpriced. Like everything is like way more expensive than it was. Like it used to be there was like a 20% price difference between buying something in a supermarket and buying something in like a convenience store, maybe like 20%. And now it's like if you're buying the same object in a convenience store, like just like a piece of ice cream or something, it's like double or sometimes even like triple the price. It's insane how the prices have gone off in convenience stores, and I don't know why that's happened just in the convenience stores. I don't know if they're just like jacking up prices because they can, but I hear that a lot of Japanese people don't go to convenience stores anymore because they're too expensive now. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it's pretty stupid. I have 3 supermarkets near my house. In fact, the supermarket is closer than the convenience store, so... Alright, what DC character should I draw in here? I have a little bit of empty space which I want to fill up with a poorly drawn DC character. Who the fuck is Kite Man? Depends on what you want them to do. We can have them do different things depending on which the character is. Kite Man is the most useless DC character, LMAO. DC has a lot of useless characters. So if he's number 1 in terms of useless characters, he must be really useless. Earless Batman would fit perfectly in the corner. mean, if we have soups, can we avoid drawing Batman? Their homosexual tension is so powerful, it's almost like they always have to be in the same page all the time. Use Atlee, she's Power Girl's Yuri Bait sidekick. Is that even a thing? I don't think enough people know about that character. DC Atlee. God, they have so many like characters nobody cares about. Holy fuck. I guess we could draw Virgin Jimmy Olsen in the corner. Doing the Virgin walk. Would people recognize Jimmy Olsen, though? That's a good question. We could have Batman doing the Virgin walk, honestly. The Virgin, Bruce Wayne versus the Chad Clark Kent. Who is the Virgin and who is the Chad in DC varies greatly on which version, what kind of story you're being told, but I actually looked up Virgin Batman versus like Chad Superman memes to see how many there are already around. And the top result you get is a Reddit post about the Virgin Superman versus Batman versus the Chad Superman versus the Flash. And of course there's the Virgin Superman Dark Knight Returns versus the Chad Batman The Dark Knight Returns, and so on and so on. Super Virgin, Bat Chad, Virgin Batman, Super Chad. DC fans can't Virgin, I like this. Virgin Doomsday versus Chad Bizarro. Virgin Lex versus Chad Superman. We all must admit that Bizarro is quite a Chad, I guess. He just does the opposite. Feels good, man. There's also Chad, Lex, and Virgin Superman. It's never ending. You could say that Superman has a lot of very strong Virgin energy in his behavior, but his like overwhelming Virginness kind of goes full circle and makes him a Chad. And also physically he's always the Chad, right? So there's a lot of stuff up for debate on what is Virgin and what is Chad in the DC universe. Whereas in Marvel, I think which characters are Virgin and which characters are Chad is it's much more agreed upon. the Virgin Cyclops versus the Chad Wolverine. I feel like the Skyward part and Thunderward struck anyone who would dare break her hymen. Amazons ain't real. I feel like the entire point of Amazons is to offer a challenge for Chad Greek males to fuck powerful women to make them feel better about themselves. In most cases, powerful women exist in mythology and stories simply so more powerful men can rape them, and then the women can be like, oh, you are truly the most powerful man. You have conquered us, the Amazon females. You are the most Chad of all Chads, Odysseus, or whoever. Chad Clark Kent versus Virgin Batman and Chad Bruce Wayne versus Virgin Superman. There really are so many layers to this. Alright, let's draw the Virgin walk. The Virgin needs to have his head down at like 45-degree angle. Like this, right? That or make an example of a man, Artemis turning that one guy into a stag. Yeah. Women in Greek stories are either like they need to be raped to show how powerful male character is, or horrible shit happens to the man for ever approaching female. It's one or the other. Women are objects to be conquered, or horrible harbinger of fate or something. He was spying on her bathing and she got mad. Hashtag just Greek things. As long as you're a Greek guy in Greek mythology situation, at any point you can just piss off a god and you know, be turned into a cricket or some shit. My impression was that it was accidental. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's accidental or not. You will still be fucked up. The opposite happens for females, in which they'll just be bathing in a mountain spring or something, and then Zeus will come by accidentally in the form of a gigantic horse or something, and he'll be like, I must rape this hot female, and then you get impregnated by his giant bull cock or something like that. This is also a pretty common occurrence. My favorite part of Greek mythology is the one where you ask, like, famous soothsayer or whatever, what's going to happen in the future, and they'll be like, oh, something horrible is going to happen to you, and then, as a result, the person is like, well, I better ruin my life doing every single thing I can, possibly, for that horrible thing to not happen, and as a result of doing everything possible for that thing not to happen, it happens. They're like, your son will kill you in the future, and you're like, oh, to prevent that, I'll leave him out in the wilderness where he'll definitely die, and instead he gets picked up by nomads or whatever and trains to become a warrior and becomes like a barbarian king, and then comes and murders you like 20 years later, and you're like, oh, this has all gone horribly wrong. I should have not left my son in the wilderness so he could become a barbarian king. How could have I made this mistake? Zeus would be a repeat sex offender in today's society. It's not like he wasn't a sex offender back in Greek society as well. The thing about Zeus raping everybody is that it's not exactly portrayed as like a good thing without consequences. His wife gets super angry every single time he does it. It's just that like there's not much we can do about Zeus coming around raping women besides his wife getting angry. Also, the problem with his wife getting angry is she often gets more angry at the female than Zeus himself, so it's like, oh, you got raped by Zeus, now his wife is jealous, and she's gonna come and turn you into a cricket or something. His angry One wife? Oh, that's right. It's his sister, right? I can't remember. Hot. I think the head is a little too far pointed down. It's not exactly like completely pointed down. It's just kind of like vaguely slumped. Hera is his sister, not daughter. His daughter is Athena and a bunch of other characters, but my favorite is Athena, where he has like a splitting headache and he's like, my head hurts so bad, and then like it pops open and Athena comes out of his fucking head. Now that's male preg for you. Women think that they can have children, but back in the day, men didn't even just get male preg. We male pregged out our daughters from our headaches. It's pretty fucking awesome. It's, all of them popped out of Gaia at some point, but it's not a biological kind of birth, but an intelligent creation or some shit. Yeah, something like that. Don't worry too much about it. The ancient Greeks didn't worry about the technicalities of how their gods were made, so you don't need to worry about it either. Hestia was the OG femcell before Athena entered the chat. You're supposed to say that she's not a femcell, she's guarding the hearth. Femcells can just claim that, like, I'm not a jobless, neat, shut-in. I'm guarding the hearth. Aphrodite also male preg birthed by Oceanus via sea foam. I don't remember all of this. I think I had like one book on Greek myths, and I read it like once. And now all of my Greek mythology comes from Fate Grand Order porn. Not even Fate Grand Order, just the doujins from Fate Grand Order. The only reason I know about Kindness is because of doujins of her. Because she's brown and claims that she's a man. When you cut off your dad's balls and they fall into the sea so the ocean god get male pregged. Pretty common occurrence, I guess. That's just how these things work, honey. When your daughter asks you, how do people have children? You're just like, well, when a man cuts off their father's testicles and they fall into the ocean, they get male pregnancy. What would happen if you had like a kid and instead of giving them proper sex education like they get in school, you incorrectly educated them on how children were born by giving them like Omega-verse doujins from a really young age? I assume this would be considered to be a form of child abuse, but if you're allowed to do this, I wonder how they would grow up and how much time it would take for them to find out that all the things you taught them about sex were completely incorrect. Giving the talk Fujoshi version. When two men, we will use these Jujutsu Kaisen characters as an example. When two men love each other very much, they stick the penis inside their assholes, or perhaps the yaoi hole, depending on the version. When the Omega is in heat, and there is an alpha male who is also in heat, the Omega can be impregnated by the Alpha. They don't teach you these things in school, honey, but I have to teach you these things as your parent. Hold on. Let's see what Grok knows about this. Explain the concepts of the Omega-verse using Jujutsu Kaisen characters as examples. The Omega releases pheromones and then drives the Alpha into rut. It's taking a lot of time. Introduction to Omega-verse. The Omega-verse, often abbreviated as ABO, Alpha, Beta, Omega, we're leaving out like the Gammas and stuff, is a popular trope originating from fanfiction communities, particularly in slash male-male pairings. It reimagines human society through a hierarchical system based loosely on animal pack dynamics, like wolves. Yes, wolves known for the Omega wolf males getting impregnated by the alpha male. This is definitely how wolf packs work, guys. It's just a bunch of men with the alpha male impregnating the the Omega male wolves. Added elements of biology, sexuality, and social structure. In this universe, people are divided into three main secondary genders: alphas, betas, and omegas. These designations influence personality, physical abilities, reproductive roles, and interpersonal relationships. Females do not appear in the doujin. Pheromones, scents that convey status, emotions, or arousal. Mating bonds, heats, ruts, periodic cycles of intense sexual drive, and sometimes male pregnancy, mpreg. I'm glad you gave us the abbreviated version in parentheses. The trope allows for explanation of power dynamics, consent, dominance, submission, and societal inequalities. It's highly flexible and varies across stories, but core concepts remain consistent. Below, I'll break down the main elements and use characters from Jujutsu Kaisen JJK as hypothetical examples to illustrate how they might fit or interact in an Omegaverse AU alternate universe. See, who says that AI is worthless? How could I summarize such a complex concept without the help of AI using 10 gorillion gigawatts of electricity and all the water of a small third world town? Jujutsu Kaisen example. Satoru Gojo as an alpha. His overwhelming strength and confidence align with alpha traits. He's the strongest sorcerer, protective of his students, and charismatic. In an Omegaverse scenario, Gojo's pheromones could suppress cursed spirits or intimidate rivals like Sukuna. During a rut, he might become hyper-focused on protecting or claiming a mate, say if triggered by a battle's adrenaline. Up. It's fucking up. AI is fucking up. Neutral majority group. Betas lack extreme traits or alphas or omegas. Jujutsu Kaisen example. Nobara Kugisaki as a beta. See? AI is worthless after all. They're listing a female character, guys. It's fucking up. Her straightforward, no-nonsense personality fits the beta archetype. She's reliable in fights without the dramatic flair of others. Nope, this is incorrect. We are not allowing a female as the beta in my Omegaverse Jujutsu Kaisen Dojin. This would definitely not fly at all. Completely incorrect. See, this is why we can't rely on AI for anything, guys. They're fucking listing the big titty sex character that was inserted into the manga for and primarily to appeal to normal heterosexual shonen manga readers as a beta in our, explaining our Omegaverse example. Spent an entire lake on this and it's not even all gay? Yep, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. Omegas are nurturing, empathetic, and physically vulnerable. They experience heat cycles, periods of fertility, and overwhelming arousal, making them seek an alpha for relief. Megumi Fushiguro as Omega. His reserved introspective nature and summoning abilities could translate to Omega's intuitive, protective instincts. I don't know about that one either. Maybe. In a team like the Tokyo Jujutsu High School, Yuji Itadori as an alpha might unconsciously scent his friends during downtime, strengthening bonds. I like how they're not allowed to talk about the primary method in which this stuff works out, in that it's like, oh, I'm the alpha character, I'm in heat, non-consensual sex. Okay, so what we've learned is that even when we're just asking AI to summarize something, they're going to get that shit wrong and insert a female character into our male sexual fantasies. Where is the gay sex? I know, someone's asking the important questions here. So if we go on eHentai right now, let's do a live survey of our Jujutsu Kaisen dojins. Okay, from the top. These are all straight sex, straight. How do you double up tags? I can't remember. I guess I should just put in Gojo and see. Gojo Satoru Dojin only. From the top, we have a Gojo and Geto. This seems like Jesus Christ, this is 150 pages long. What the fuck? Jesus Christ, women are just... They have too much time on their hands. 150 pages of this. My fucking god. Okay, so first one is Gojoru Geto. Oh god, this is an actual straight sex doujin drawn by female. Gojo and Utahime? No, this cannot be. My Gojo having heterosexual sex? No. Okay, Gojo and Geto. Geto is just mainly Geto. Oh, here's a Gojo and Itadori Yuji. Of course, Yuji is almost always taking it in shit. Almost always. Oh, this is Gojo Geto, except Geto is female. I always find that one of the interesting spin-offs of gay doujins, in which it's a female author, but she doesn't want to do gay stuff, so she instead makes one of the male characters into a female. I always think that's one of the interesting spin-offs, because it's still kind of gay in that, like, you definitely are seeing these male characters and seeing them in, like, a relationship, but then, like, it's a female author that doesn't just want to draw straight up gay stuff. It's a weird, like, halfway point. Utahime is a common straight pairing for Gojo, yes, but I don't want my Gojo having heterosexual sex at all. He's reserved for gay sex only in my mind. Female goodness must be stopped. Gooners. Cunt boys or whatever they're called freaks me out, man. Are these boys with vaginas where their taint would be? Because the Japanese already invented that concept with the yaoi hole for many years ago. No female reproductive sex, only male preg. In the future, we will live in an idealized society where there will be no females to get in the way of our gay sex. All reproduction will be done through gay sex. This is what the women want. Utahime is female. All the Jujutsu Kaisen slop that zitters serve me from time to time gender bends them. Every once in a while there is a heterosexual Jujutsu Kaisen content. Usually involving Kugisaki Nobara getting mind controlled by hypnosis cell phones by ugly bastard Oji-san, and then giving sloppy paizuri tit job at Love Hotel or whatever. But every once in a while there's, other relations as well. What's the topic for today? Gay sex. This was the topic we had yesterday and the day before. Cunt boys are basically just dudes with vajays instead of dicks. Oh, thank God. I'm really attracted to vaginas, but I hate how they're attached to women. Now with the cunt boy, I can have sex with a vagina without touching a female. All of my desires have come true. A friend of mine was losing her mind over Kingsman Boys Love. I feel like the females who go into yaoi with fictional 2D characters is really just like the starting. Well, not really starting. It's like the healthier version, because like nobody's gonna get hurt except like the fans of this franchise. If you're spending all your time sexualizing Gojo and uh, Yuji or whatever having gay sex. When it really gets truly depraved is when the yaoi fans start putting their gay sex fantasies onto either like 3D actors for IPs or even worse like K-pop like stars and stuff like that. And then they start like actually reaching out to the K-pop stars in real life and being like, "Oh, I saw you, you know, hugging your other boy band member the other day. Are you going to get married soon, teehee? That's just a joke, except I'm not actually joking, teehee. I'm actually like, you know, trying to contact you about this shit." That's when it starts to get really sick. Once you start doing 3D pairings, you've crossed the threshold, and yet I feel like that's the more normie direction, even though it's like a more extreme version of it if you think about it. Like, it's also more accessible to the normies, because like, I mean, I guess anime is super mainstream at this point, but I feel like it's just a really easy way for K-pop stans, for example, to go down this dark road in which they start treating like real life humans as their, you know, sex toys to be fucked around with gay sex. It's pretty dark, man. What's particularly disturbing is that a lot of these people who are sexualizing like real people in real life don't actually understand what they're doing. By people, I mean not really people, because these crazy females. It's for normies, but there are many avenues for degeneracy. You can be a degenerate normie, yes. I remember, I forgot what picture it was, but there was like some picture I drew featuring sexy females, and in one of my comments, there was a comment that was like, "Look at you sexualizing the female without their consent. Shame on you." And I was like, wait, is this not a joke? Is this like a real person complaining about me sexualizing the female body? I have to check out who this person is. I went to their profile, and it was an actual female Twitter user, and their entire Twitter page was like just endless couplings of male on male DC characters' sex. Lots and lots of Nightwing getting his ass plowed. And I was just like, holy shit, this woman is truly unaware. This was a few years ago. Yeah, it was like a few years ago. It was just like one of those like very rare situations that I don't get much of, where I get exposed to like the weird parts of the internet. Considering what I draw and how often I'm on the internet as a living, you'd think I'd be exposed to more people like this, but I actually rarely encounter them. I knew a girl in uni who'd go up to guys just talking, point at them, and scream yaoi. That's just legitimate mental illness, unfortunately. Some of the most vocal and anti-objectification people tend to be women who objectify them. Yeah, having self-awareness is a difficult thing. It's not easily achieved. A lot of us would be much better off if we could just have some amount of self-awareness. But, yeah. It's hard to find it. Same woman who would go up to the gay couple and ask who the Seme and Uke are. In those situations, you should just be like, Seme, Uke, what does that mean? Even if you know exactly what it means. It will diffuse the situation faster and make them go away. I honestly don't mind if someone wants to be a total perv, but going so far in public is not okay. Whether it's being a perv or talking about your favorite anime, time and place is an important part of these things. You must learn to hide your power level. It's better off for everyone that way. Especially you yourself. No one's calling them out in any serious way, unlike female objectification, hence you have almost all the literature industry being book talk. I didn't really think about this until I saw the like Shoe on Head YouTube video that got like 1 million views regarding this. But she was explaining how like women, because they process like sexual information much differently from men, where men's is just like completely visual and stuff, whereas women need like situation. Basically, the book version of these romantic, writings is just straight up porn for women. It's not just like erotic fiction. It is just the equivalent of if a woman was addicted to being on Pornhub 24/7. And I was just like, huh, I didn't really consider it that way. But yeah, if women need like the setup and like all the literature stuff around it to get themselves aroused, then yeah, book talk is just straight up porn for them. Not like porn adjacent, but it's just like porn. Book talk is truly unhinged. Pretty much everything on TikTok is unhinged at this point. But book talk, a special section of hell specific for these people. We are more in our head and fantasy oriented for a smut. Because I'm such a visual person, and like I've trained myself to be more of a visual person in the process of drawing, like everything I think about is accompanied with a lot of pretty vivid visual imagery. So I can get a lot of pleasure from like reading and stuff. And of course I can imagine the shit as well, but it's always going to take a back seat to the visual image experience. So I didn't really consider how the female sexuality was just making their book talk experience just like straight up porn. Men are hardwired to be visual. Yeah, it probably has something to do with like hunter-gatherer shit, where you have to be out in the wild chasing after the mammoth or whatever or something. I mean, I can give erection to people and all the males in stream just by going like this, right? It's like, oh my god! Look at the curve, guys! I think I can do better than that, actually. Just draw a silhouette of Nami. She has too much internal organs to be Nami. Honestly, when we get all the way to like the One Piece body type, when we get this far, I no longer find it attractive. Or this. That was a cool face twitch. That was in no way a suggestion of anything else. It makes sense why men are more visual. We primarily need to look for fertility markers. I don't know. Can't women tell whether a man is a provider or not by looking at him? Is that not visual information? Maybe not. I don't know. You can always look at a man's paycheck, I guess. That's visual. This is a little farther forward. Both visual and non-visual for women. Anyways, isn't there are all this studies that proves that women see like the men they're gonna breed with and then the man that they're gonna have to provide with them like separate things or something? I don't know if there was a study of that. Maybe I'm thinking of a study of something else, but basically hasn't like every pseudoscience theory of like the incel chuds that incel chuds have been claiming like up until now actually been proven in like sociological studies, like the whole like women want to have sex with the alpha chad but then want to get married to betas after they've been impregnated or something like that. Isn't all that stuff like actually been like, you know, confirmed in some ways? I can't even remember if this is real or not. It might have just been me hallucinating on the internet, but obviously the ideal is that you get a Giga Chad male like Clark Kent who is also like the provider as well, but there is some evidence for it. Also a possible reason for why human females have concealed ovulation. See, the thing is, back when we were in an evolutionary stage, like for the 100,000 years of human history and stuff, it didn't actually matter that much if she wasn't having your child. There's all these studies, I think, that show that stuff like whether the child is genetically related to you or not as a man wasn't really important until we started to have excess wealth, and then you could actually pass on your wealth to your child, and that was like an option. But before you could pass on your wealth to your child, like it didn't really matter because like you had to function in terms of like a village unit or a hunting group. So like you were more like part of the tribe than like an individual offspring of the guy. And then once we started to have like stuff we could actually pass on to our offspring, that's when it started to become a deal whether she was cheating on you or not. On the other hand, as a man, if you could have sex with sexy bad bitch girl, but then also get married to the kind-hearted dommy mommy girl that will cook and clean for you, would you say no to that? That setup. I guess they would say no, because they would want to have sex with Dommy Mommy, kind-hearted girl as well. Men, see, it doesn't apply to men, because the male default mode is just impregnate everything, stick your penis in everything, don't worry about consequences. Just stick penis inside horse vagina and hope baby comes out of it. We don't even think that far ahead. Whereas the female is more like, who can care for me while I am immobile because I have like this massive baby growing in my stomach. I just want to cuddle for fuck's sake. This is standard male vibe. I want to impregnate all the females and then have happy family. Oh, I saw Alien Romulus, speaking of pregnancy. Spoilers, one of the women is pregnant. You find out one of the women in Alien Romulus is pregnant at like the early stages of the movie, and I'm just like, I bet this is gonna fucking relate to the body horror theme of Alien, and of course it did. She gets like infected with the alien bioweapon, and then she gives birth to like a massive semi-humanoid alien. It's kind of hot. The director really went for the body horror angle with that one. She gave birth to like a giant Lanklet humanoid instead of like a normal xenomorph. They did that 3 times already? Yeah, they did. They can't help but do it all the time. It just comes through with the body horror pipeline. Male's behavior matters once 3rd trimester and postpartum happens. It would be interesting if females were like fully mobile like some other mammals during pregnancy and it didn't really affect their performance at all. And they didn't need men to take care of them in any way. It would probably change human behavior quite a bit. I remember I was at like the San Diego Zoo when I was a kid, and we were like riding the monorail and just going around, and there was just like an antelope or something that was just giving birth, and like the baby was just like hanging out of its vagina, and the antelope was just like grazing just nonchalantly, just like ignoring the fact that there was like a half-birth thing just like coming out of its pussy, and I was just like, God damn. That animal doesn't seem bothered by the fact that it's giving birth right now at all. It's just it doesn't seem to give a fuck. It was just like halfway out of it. It's just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm busy eating right now. Nature is beautiful. It was honestly pretty fucking disgusting. The baby was all like slimy and shit and just dangling out. Priorities, man. It would be like if a human female was in the operating room and she was like, God damn it, yelling at her husband, I told you to get me more KFC. It's like, baby, please stop eating. You're giving birth right now. You can have Chick-fil-A once we're out of the operating room. She's like, I want my Chick-fil-A now. Now! Benefits of not having to deal with massive gigabrain alien monster that needs 9 months to form and breaks your body coming out. If evolution is real, or if God it, well, I guess we have this explained from the Christian perspective, but if evolution is real, why haven't human females evolved to have much wider vaginas to allow for the human brain to come out easier? You'd think at some point in our million years, there would have been like one woman who had like just an absolutely massive stretchy vagina, and then she was like so much better at giving birth that the vagina genetics caught on, and then humans would just have an easier time giving birth. But for some reason that never happened, and instead like we have evolved, and until recent like there was massive mortality rates during childbirth, and it was a really big deal. There wasn't any like huge vagina lady that was just better at giving birth than everybody else. I think that human hips might actually have been shrinking recently with modern medicine. See, this is what happens when we allow every woman to have C-sections. We have narrow hips. That's if the majority of those offspring survive? I guess so. You just think that, like, if cockroaches can, within one generation, evolve to be immune to whatever, like, cockroach poison or whatever people were using and shit like that, there would be, like, one genetic mutation that was, like, super successful and the woman would be, like, really good at child breeding or something. How do you know there isn't a Giga Vagina lady out there? There are. They have like 12 kids. But it just hasn't stuck. That's just their vagina stretching out instead of being it like a genetic trait. His mouth is a little too frowny, although it's Batman, so I guess it's okay. You know, this is technically a race supremacy post. Honestly, I'm tired of Batman being like, I will defeat Superman with my kryptonite shotgun. Thank you, Lex Luthor, in chat. We can't let these space aliens dominate our society. All my racism toward the Kryptonians goes away when I have chance to have sex with Power Girl, though. It's funny because Batman likely has a lot more sex. Mild-mannered Clark Kent isn't allowed to get in that newspaper room pussy because he's mild-mannered. I mean, Batman, how can Superman ever compete with Batman in the having sex department when Batman has convenient pussy just set up inside the Batcave that he can use whenever? It's a completely unfair comparison. That Robin Bussy is just waiting for use. Why is Nightwing like the default gay sex sub for all the DC pairings? How did that happen? Is it just because he has a fat ass? I don't understand. Like, by far, there's way more Nightwing gay porn than any other DC character. But why is it him? It's not even Robin. It's definitely Nightwing. Nightwing is the bisexual's wet dream. Fat ass plus likely lots of experience bottoming growing up. DC sexualized him in his man ass. See, now I have to look it up. Nightwing DC butt. Okay, if I type in butt, I literally get like sci-fi website a history of Dick Grayson's butt. These are the same websites that are telling us how like we're not supposed to sexualize women, and they'll just have like straight up entire like 50-page columns about this guy's ass. How Nightwing's butt became his defining feature. This is the media that's telling us that we have to stop sexualizing women, by the way. He's fully cheeked up and serving cake. Thank God. I mean, technically, shouldn't they all be, like, caked up? Because they all have, like, thick, muscular asses and they're all wearing skin-tight bodysuits. I guess Batman, his cape covers up. That's probably why we need the capes, right? So that women can't as easily stare at our asses. Make it a little more mysterious. It's also why Power Girl's cape is shorter, so we can get access to her ass. Much like Power Girl's boob window, Power Girl just doesn't have just a boob window. The boobs are also huge. I guess you can say that Nightwing's ass is also huge, so that makes sense. The world could use a little less Puritanism. I'm in Japan, so I don't have that problem. I walk into a local convenience store, and they are on the rack. They have essentially porn just sitting there. They took it away during the Olympics, but it's back. Japan is just as horny as it was back in the day. It's doing fine. All objectification is equal, but some objectification is more equal than others. Yes. What accent do you have? I don't know. I don't have an accent. It's a speech impediment. You could say it sounds like a Bostonian accent because I don't say my R's properly. When I want to say R, Superman, Power Girl. I have to try really hard to get the because I just say Power Girl, Power God. I also don't really have Japanese accent. I used to have Kansai accent as a kid because I went to Kyoto to learn when I learned Japanese initially, but I don't have Kansai accent anymore. Just sounds American to me. You guys don't understand the subtleties of the American lexicon sound. I don't know. I wouldn't know if it was a speech impediment if you hadn't told us. Having a speech impediment was how I avoided getting suspended or expelled from my middle school when I said some problematic comments about wanting to murder everybody in the class. This was right after Columbine, so they were a little sensitive to my comments, but my my speech impediment had resulted in me getting like special voice training classes, which put me in the special ed category, which meant they couldn't expel me because I was retarded. It do be like that sometimes. Tan Power Girl in leopard print. I mean, she's already dressed about as slutty as you can expect. Honestly, I don't think there's anything sexier than high-cut leotards. As someone who was on a swim team for a really long time. It accentuates the female body perfectly. I once was having a conversation with one of my friends, one of my buddies on the swim team, and I think it went something like me being like, you know, there's all this porn of women in competitive swimsuits, but I don't think that's even that sexy. I find swimsuits like bikinis, normal sexy swimsuits like bikinis, way more sexy than competitive swimsuits. And I remember this conversation to this day because I'm a pretty honest human being, and I've never told a bigger lie than I was when I told that day. Women in competitive swimsuits are more sexy than women in bikinis. I completely lied. I'm sorry. I'm a fucking massive liar. That's not true. I was trying to hide the fact that I found all the women in competitive swimsuits on the swim team very attractive because I thought it would be awkward if I said that I had a huge erection all the time. I thought that was inappropriate, so I was like, it's not a big deal. The competitive swimsuit is not sexual attire at all, but I was a liar. I'm lying. Monokinis are the best of both. I like if in Japanese, if you look up kyo e mizugi is the term. Kyo e mizugi, and then say hai kato. Then you have to make sure I don't get porn. but you get images like this. See, I've talked about this before, but what I find attractive about the female body is there is these like this a flow of lines going from the top of the head down through the body, across the hips, down the legs. I mean, men have this as well, but it's a slightly different flow. This is where I feel the female form strongest. And female competitive swimsuits, they often have lines, and just the general form of them perfectly accentuates this kind of vertical flowing structure. Which is why I theorize that it's the most attractive clothing style for female. And obviously, Power Girl in her high-cut leotard is sort of the same category here. Line of action, it kind of is a line of action thing, yes, but line of action is more to do with movement. I'm talking about, like, quite literally, if you look at the body and go from head down, let's say, like the side of the head, you can feel the form. Like there's a line here, the outside, but then there's lines on the inside that go across, down, across the chest of the boob, the hip, right here, the hip bone, and then like the center of the leg, for example. There's like 3 lines like this. One from the side of the head, across the nipple, the center of the breast, and then down here. And then there's the center line going from the center of the face, and then like the outside line. And by following these, you can really feel the form. And there's some for the arms as well. And then you have these outer lines like this, and then this. And this creates more form like here. The V-cut of the swimsuit further drags your eyes toward the center. And what these lines kind of do, especially with the competitive swimsuit, is it all kind of drags your eyes toward the sexual organ in a very kind of flowing, effortless manner. I recently saw Cammy in New Light, and it was 100% the leotard effect. Leotards are extremely powerful. Who is the most impactful female character we've had in the last 10 years in terms of gooners? It's 2B. And what does 2B have? High-cut leotard. When's the last time you've seen 2B with her skirt on? Probably never. All you see is the version where the skirt has been blown off, and all you get to see is the 2BS in the high-cut leotard. But I like the skirt. Yeah, people can't help themselves. It's always the no-skirt version of 2B. The skirt is nice as well. The skirt hides the ultimate goal, which is the, sexual organ area. So as a result, it's more mysterious, I guess. "9S is gay as hell." I would have gone crazy. 9S did go crazy, yes. Part of the reason why that the line theory I was just talking about doesn't talk to men is because men have dicks. This might be part of the reason why Greek artists and stuff, Greek and Roman, well, not the Romans, the Greeks thought that small penises were more attractive, possibly because of this reason. I can't say for sure, but the sort of the flopping around dick kind of, it interferes with the vertical flow. They can be more boxy, so there isn't that as much vertical flow, right? Because the male body, it's very much defined by like how square things are. The female body is defined by curvature lines, whereas the male body is much more defined by these kind of square lines. This is like artist one-on-one on how to draw women versus females. It's not just like drawing more muscles. It's like the energy for males is all about like squares and like boxy shapes. Like when the muscles start to get developed, they kind of start to create this this boxy feel, like this, right? It's like squares, triangles, and there isn't like this kind of flow. It's more like uh, 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 like this. It all becomes very straight line and square, and like the energy isn't like this. It's kind of like this. This is like just like basic idea on how you draw the different genders. This is why when you read like doujins and stuff that are females, some of the stuff that you will notice that they have huge amounts of accents on is like this. For one, they have the jaw. The jaw is super sharp, right? If you read any like for female doujins. They focus on the jaw, the sharp jaw, the Adam's apple. Then the neck muscles, those are also very drawn sharp. The clavicle, this is also a sharp object. And then besides this, you'll often see like images of like the man drinking a bottle of water, like spilling some water, and then the woman will be like looking at his Adam's apple and like the chest area as she looks at the Adam's apple and him glugging the water. You know, typical like sports scene. Ikemen senpai drinking water after playing basketball. Glug glug glug. And then she's like, yeah, he's drinking. I can look at his Adam's apple. And then another thing that you see a lot of for female-oriented media is the hand, the male hand. They'll draw it like super long fingers, like this. But then, like the top of the finger where the bone comes into play, they really accentuate like the boniness right here, like this parts. I'm not doing it very well. I'm still not very good at drawing hands, but like this kind of boniness of the hand is highly valued for media for females. So the things that you can see in this stuff is that you can actually feel like the difference in like men are being attracted to the curvatures of the female body and women are being attracted to like the straight line nature of the male body. What I just explained in terms of like what are the differentiating aspects of what creates female energy versus male energy. Yes, the yaoi hands. very important to draw proper yaoi hands so you can get the female readers. You're talking about female-oriented content. You can draw yaoi hands. I have anti-yaoi hands. I'm all palms. This is part of the reasons why I say that Jujutsu Kaisen is extremely female-oriented in its art style, is that a lot of the characters are drawn with very sharp, straight lines. Just like the pen choices and stuff. So that just gives Jujutsu Kaisen a very like Fujoshi yaoi oriented art style. It's interesting. And the thin lines, like you have mentioned on multiple occasions, well, Jujutsu Kaisen lines are somewhat thin, but they also are slightly different from what you would consider to be like shoujo lines, because they're like a. I'm actually using one of those pens right now. I found a new pen that was recommended to me, but like they're kind of like this. They're the like marker type lines, right? Maybe this is more Sakamoto Days lines. I haven't actually checked out Jujutsu Kaisen lines in a while, but I feel like they're like this type of like the thin in the middle, thick on the edges. So in the past, when you're drawing manga, they would tell you that you should draw lines like this, and then connect them at the thin ends. This would be considered a traditional manga lining style. Is very consciously create these thick lines that get thin at the end, and then you connect the thin end to the thin end. This is like, you know, Go Nagai 70s manga. They all look like this, right? What are the Jujutsu Kaisen manga? Jujutsu Kaisen manga lines. They are thin. I think it's the length of the lines that make me say that they're not really shoujo manga lines. They're thin lines, but then he like overlaps them quite a bit. Infinite Void, Gojo Satoru. See, this is what I'm talking about. The lines are... They're kind of like Hunter x Hunter lines, honestly. A lot of Jujutsu Kaisen is just version of Hunter x Hunter. It's like this shit, right? But shoujo manga lines would be more like this. Very consistently thin and then long flowing lines. They would the length of the lines in shoujo manga is much longer. And you use this to draw stuff like flowing things like hair and shit. Very airy. Lack of weight. Not much black, just lightness like this. And then you add a lot of gray tone to compensate for the fact that there's no line weight black. Wispy, thin, and long, yeah. And then you draw flowers and stuff. Trying to figure out if I need to do anything more for this picture. might have added too much stuff, but I think it's okay. We're not going to overthink this shit. Screen tones with flowers in Kira Kira. I've been trying to find good Kira Kira tones for Clip Studio Paint for a while now, and I just can't seem to find them. Where are all the good Kira Kira tones? I don't understand. Do I need this line here? Kind of. I don't know. Why does Jujutsu Kaisen manga look like it was made with a Sharpie? Maybe it was. You don't have to use G Pen anymore. Back in the day, if you didn't properly use these G Pen, these ink tipping pens, steel tip, whatever you call them in English, pens, you would consider to be like a fake mangaka, and the other people in the manga industry would be like, no, you're not allowed to do that. But nowadays, everybody uses whatever the fuck they want to, and they can still sell 1 trillion copies, even using like a weird pen that you're not supposed to use, so... G-Pen or Zebra, I feel old. I mean, people still use G-Pen. Or, in fact, I think it's called... The Zebra is the company. There's another company that makes G-Pens, but I think it's like the Zebra G-Pen is the default. And then there's a few other ones called like Kabura Pen or Nihon G-Pen, stuff like that. Maru Pen. Maru Pen means circle pen, but that's the one they usually use when they have like very thin lines. I remember when they sold kits, sobs. Yeah, now everybody just buys the software. That being said, it's not like I'm drawing analog myself, so... Alright, guys. I think I'm done with this picture. I have to go and do shit now. See you around, boys. Have a nice night. Good night, guys.